What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TOJ Talks. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. TOJ Pod, all 32 Pod. Game day coming up here about 48 hours from now. Now, recording this on a Friday afternoon. Jets Titans. Obviously, Monday Night Football is a thing of the past. Jets, obviously, 0-1 coming into this football game. No better person to have on. Titans, full NFL. Ben Arthur, Fox Sports. Ben, how we doing today, man? Good first time having you on the pod.
Yeah, doing well, Will. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you. I don't think I've seen you since it's been a minute, probably the
Yeah,
combine from a couple years ago. So, yeah, glad to be on. Glad to talk Titans ahead of this matchup this weekend.
yeah, no, definitely. Obviously met down in Mobile and at the combine a couple years back, and stay in touch. Obviously, big kind of matchup I think for both teams. Obviously, early in the year, look, 0-2 is not a disaster, for either team, but obviously, conference games matter a little bit more. Division games, obviously, as well. Kind of take me back, I guess, going into the season from like a Titans perspective. Kind of, I guess, maybe give Jets fans kind of a little bit of a look into maybe expectations, what kind of team they kind of Titans had come into the year. Obviously, most people just saw Week 1, but what did it kind of look like from your perspective coming into the year?
Yeah, I think entering the season, there was a lot of excitement about kind of the change that was happening. I think once the shock wore off of like Mike Vrabel's firing and Derrick Henry departing and all that, like, two people, two figures that have been so integral to what the Titans have been over the last several years. I think what started to set in was more of excitement. Like, okay, what is Will Levis going to be in year two? You have an offensive minded head coach who has a really good track record with quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, Derek Carr, Matt Stafford, building a pass first offense, which Titans fans are not used to seeing at all, just in their history, period. So, a lot of excitement because of that, building up the offensive line, bringing in Brian Callahan's father, Bill Callahan, who's probably the best O line coach in league history, and then drafting a left tackle number 7 overall, making those improvements up front for Levis, getting more weapons for Levis, Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd to add to DeAndre Hopkins, adding a running back that fit more of what they're going to do now, just kind of dual threat in terms of being a threat in the pass game and between the tackles, and Tony Pollard to go with Tajay Spears. And so I think, so again, I think kind of the theme was excitement and curiosity because of the flashes Will Levis showed, the efforts they put into building up the team around him, and then I think also defensively. I mean, building up a really strong secondary. I mean, I think people will see what they did in Week 1. They only allowed 148 yards of total offense, so people know this defense is probably going to be good, but like that secondary, getting Snead from the Chiefs, one of the top elite corners in the NFL, adding Cheeto Awuzie, who's played in a Super Bowl. He's their other starting corner. Tavondre Sweat in the middle, who with Jeff Simmons, I mean, they could definitely be one of the top, um, D tackle combos in the league. And so again, Will, it's kind of like goes back to like the excitement, curiosity about what the start of this new era of the Titans was going to look like. So that's what the chatter was for this team heading into the year.
Yeah, I think going into the year, and I talked about this on all 32, but my kind of confusion, I guess, with the Titans was it kind of felt like, and Jets fans maybe can look at it this way, like a little 2015 ish in terms of the Jets and other different teams, obviously, where like you kind of half in, half out in a sense, where like spent big money on veterans in terms of Hopkins a year ago. Obviously, you're paying Jeffrey Simmons. They spent big money on Snead, Ridley, but then it's at the same time, have some of these younger pieces, right? And on the offensive line, Skronsky, Latham, obviously at quarterback, even spent big money on, I guess not big money, but somewhat big money on Pollard. Then you have Spears, who's in year 2. So the team's kind of new coach, GM that's been there a little bit. It's just kind of an interesting kind of mix, I guess, of talent, and I guess for me, I didn't have super high expectations. I thought they would be kind of a team that any given week could get you, just because like there is that talent there. But obviously, it's going to take a little bit with new head coach. What do you make of Will Levis overall? A guy whose numbers last year somewhat decent, right? And I mean, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. Obviously, again, smaller sample size. I felt like unfortunately, Sunday we saw the reason that maybe you're not bought into Will Levis would be the turnovers, kind of some of the little bit of roid rage. It kind of felt like he had where he gets a little. I don't know. What did you make of Levis overall? And did week one throw you a little bit, or were you kind of like this was coming at some point?
Yeah, I didn't expect him to look that bad. I don't think anyone really did. I mean, that pick six was one of the worst throws, one of the worst decisions you'll ever see by an NFL quarterback. And so I didn't expect it to be that bad, but like kind of 360 view, you have to remember that that was Levis's 10th career start. When he was starting last year, he was kind of thrown into the fire. He started as a rookie as the number 3 behind Ryan Tannehill and Malik Willis, who's now with the Packers. Like he was kind of thrown in middle of the year, figuring it out on the fly. And he, showed a ton of flashes, right? His debut game was incredible. I think it was 4 touchdown passes. The Dolphins game where he led that incredible comeback when the Titans were down 13 or 14 points down late in the fourth quarter to lead them to that win. There was I think it was a Thursday night game against the Steelers where he made some really, really big throws. And so yeah, I think the flashes are there for Levis, and I think in time he could be a good quarterback. I don't know how great or not he can be, but because of that investment that they've made in him this offseason, like we talked about earlier, just with the O-line, Skoronski being in year 2, getting him a left tackle, bringing in Calvin Ridley, bringing in Tyler Boyd, a second season with DeAndre Hopkins, offensive-minded, quarterback-friendly head coach, just being more comfortable entering 2024, knowing he's the guy. Just all that kind of built the belief for many and myself included that we could start to see Will Levis start to take off a bit. So with all that said, the debut game of this season did kind of catch me off guard with just some of the decisions he made after they had built up a 17-0 lead and just completely throwing the game away. But again, I think we do need to remember that he's just 10 games in as a starter in his career, and in this culture of the NFL where, we just have these knee-jerk reactions to every week, and we need to do a better job of contextualizing everything. And so does Levis need to be better? Yes. But do I think he's going to be better? Yes, I think he's going to be better. Like you said, new offense. There's a lot of newness around him, even though I do think he entered year 2 being more comfortable. So yeah, I'm just excited and curious as everyone else, but I don't think what we saw in week 1 is indicative of who he's going to be for the Titans.
Yeah, I think this isn't a great matchup for him in terms of like a secondary perspective, but at the same time, I don't think he needs to be great on Sunday for the Titans to have a chance to win this football game. I think it's going to be a lot about, Tajay Spears, a lot about Tony Pollard, a lot about blocking. The one thing I think I would kind of transition to the Jets a little bit here. The one thing I think where the Jets are going to have an advantage is, their pass rush did not get home on Monday night. I know that some of the numbers analytically suggested they did eventually, and they had a couple sacks that, were more so like, not, I don't know, they counted sacks as opposed to tackles for losses, but they might as well have been TFLs, which is fine. The Titans offensive line in terms of pass block win rate, which take it for what you will, it is just one stat to throw out there. Wasn't great. That's 29th, which was by far the worst in the NFL. When the right side of that offensive line specifically struggled. What do you make of this matchup? I guess for the Titans, we'll start with their offense versus the Jets' defense. Again, I think they're gonna have to lean on that run game, and the Jets should be better. They can't possibly be worse than they were on Monday night against the run. I just feel like this is like a carry the ball 35 times and like let Levis throw it 15 to 20 times, try to get Ridley and D-Hop in some advantageous situations. They start trying to air the football out. I think this plays right into the Jets' hands.
Yeah, like you said, I think the Jets should be licking their chops if they're, the edge guys, right? Knowing, that they're coming off, maybe a performance they won forget against the 49ers and going up against the Titans who have a rookie left tackle who played right tackle in college. And then on the right side of the offensive line, as you said, there's even more of a concern there. So yeah, they're going to have to lean on Pollard a lot for from the Titans' perspective, I think we're going to see more of Tajay Spears in the run game. Like Tony Pollard was super effective against the Bears, but I know Brian Callahan has talked about getting because entering the season they really look at Pollard and Spears as RB1A and RB1B. They don't really look at one guy being ahead of the other. And in that season opener, it was really the Pollard show. And so I do think that's what's going to be different from the Titans' perspective. They are going to have to lean on the run, as you said, but I think we're going to see more of Spears in that. Going to have a quick passing game to kind of neutralize the Jets' pass rush and whatnot. So, and then the Jets secondary. I mean, it's going to be hard to throw the ball if you're Levis, right? So they're going to need the run game to come through again. And I think because they have somewhat of untapped potential with Tajay Spears, I think kind of that two-headed look, so to speak, could maybe offer some opportunities if you're the Titans. So I think they would need to capitalize on that.
Yeah, I'll be interested, from a Jets perspective for the season, for you, obviously, I know you obviously have the Titans background, but kind of covering the whole league. From like an Aaron Rodgers Jets offense perspective, what you saw on Monday night, what'd you kind of think of it? And then I guess we can kind of get into how they match up with this Titans defense, which, again, has some really nice pieces, but I think is kind of there's a lot of new there as well. I guess, what do you think of how the Jets offense looked as a whole on Monday night?
Yeah, I think